Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News. Kia ora, Chewy.
Kia ora. How we doing? I gotta say, man, it's lucky that I'm here on time. I'm in the last 10 minutes of the Ted Lasso final. It's so good.
I watch. I'm gonna say one prediction. Yeah, one prediction, and you are to keep. I'm not even gonna look at the screen. You are to keep it straight. I haven't seen it. You are to keep a straight face. What's the name of the owner of the football league? Is it Rebecca?
Of the club, yeah.
Yeah, Rebecca. Okay. I don't now make it clear. I don't know this, so it's not a spoiler, and I'm not going to look at you, Chewy. Rebecca will be pregnant in this last episode from the guy in the Netherlands. Is it Netherlands and in Amsterdam that she met up? That's my prediction. That she couldn't get pregnant for the whole time. That was all a thing, and today that's my prediction. Haven't seen it, don't know. Was going to watch it this afternoon, but didn't get around to it. Now, I gave you a little tidbit last week when I said thank you and fuck you, which didn't spoil anything. Can you give us something?
That was amazing. That was amazing.
But my thing didn't spoil anything, did it?
No, it didn't.
Can you give me anything that's not going to spoil it for me when I watch it tomorrow? Or not? If it's not, say not. I don't want to ruin anything.
No, I haven't had enough time to think about this. So, look, it's just jam-packed with so much payoff of the previous 2 seasons.
All right, cool.
It's just wish fulfillment at this point, and it's amazing. I'm loving it.
All right. Let's say a huge thank you to our patrons who are always on board, showing us love, and we show it back in an appropriate level way. You know, there's no inappropriate love being shown, just appropriate level love being shown. For you guys who are involved, thank you very much. If you're not involved, you can head to patreon.com/Big Hairy News. The other thing is I was talking to 2 companies today, Chewy, 2 of them, about some merchandise and some T-shirts and or hoodies. Nice. So here's a question for you guys in the chat. And if you're not live in the chat right now and you watch this on demand, you can tell us as well. What should I do, Chewy? Should I say, is this amount an okay amount for T-shirts? Or should I say, how much would people pay for a T-shirt from us? Now, remember what we're going to do, and our plan is to probably release 2 or 3 T-shirts every single month. And then you have an opportunity to pick them up if you want them or not. And every month it'll be the same. And rolling it over. So perhaps next week we'll come to you. Perhaps next week, it'll depend how I get these things nutted out. But perhaps next week we'll come to you and we'll be saying, here's the 2 or 3 designs for this month. And you purchase them in that month, in the month of June, and then at the end of month they get printed and sent out, made and sent out. So answer me this, chat, people in the chat-inski. What do you think would be an okay amount, a fair amount to charge for a BHN printed T-shirt? Remembering, we're doing this because it's good fun. We've got some very good logos already. Like, for example, if the left vote, the left wins. That's going to certainly be one for the first month. And maybe things like Luxon, not a businessman, just a board member. That'll probably be one as well, which I think is 2 brilliant ones. I mean, if the left vote, the left wins. We know that. And also, Luxon, he is not a businessman. Without any shadow of a doubt, he is a board member, and they're 2 very different things. So yes, Mr. Anderson, we see Mumble Wank as well. We know that'll be in put that up there to put out as well. So tell me this. What would be an okay amount of money to pay for a T-shirt delivered to you? Remembering that it's going to be to support this. You're going to get something, but it's going to be to support this. In the chat. I mean, be honest. 5, 10, 15, 20, 220. What do you think you'd be comfortable a dollar figure? Now, this may not be determining what we charge, but it'll be interesting to know from you what you think would be an okay amount to pay for a BHN T-shirt, probably the BHN logo between the shoulder blades and maybe a slogan across the front from that month. Mr. Anderson says 50. Somehow you want to contribute to
Do we have any increases of $50?
I have 50. I have 50. Do I have 51? Do I have 51? No. In genuineness, if you saw it popped up and you went, oh yeah, I'll get one of those, what would that dollar figure be? And if it's like 20, say 20. If it's like 40, say 40. Like what would you pay for a BHN t-shirt with the slogan on the front that's going to obviously, mostly, put out some of our ideologies, right? That's what it's going to be about. Okay, cool. Well, they're looking good. 50. Look at this. This is not bad because I'm looking at what we can do. Mr. Anderson says 50. 50 to 60 for a quality thing. Funko says 25. For Miko, sorry. Gareth says 60 plus P&P. Depends on the quality, says Mark. Use AS colour 30 to 40. Can we get a BHN logo with no slogans? Yeah, I guess we can as well.
Just a standard one that we can always have rather than...
Yeah, there we go. Ivan says $40 to the door, basically. 30 to $40. Okay. I mean, like, this is market research right now, because obviously if we come out and saying, we'll do these and they're $90 and no one buys them, what's the point? But if we say they're $8 and it doesn't give BHN any access to funds to help pay for things, there's no point for that either. So it's finding that middle ground where people will do it, and we the show will be able to benefit from it.
For $8, if you send me a white T-shirt, I'll write BHN in black marker and send it back to you. Final offer.
Hang on. You will if they send it to you and then they have a return envelope to send it back. It's $8.
That's correct. See, this is why you're my business advisor. I don't have any head for numbers, mate. This is why I made it big.
All right. So tonight we're having a look at a bit like last night's show, actually. We're having a look at... Shall I do the clickbaity kind of headline, what we're going to talk about, or shall I do the fair and balanced? Which shall I do, Joey?
I don't know. We've started with a paid broadcast plugging ourselves, so let's go full monetization.
So clickbaity. Okay, we'll have a look at the end of the show on Luxon's war on women. Is that pretty clickbaity?
Oh, so good. Yeah.
But we're also going to have a look at Jan Tinetti and what's going on. Is she in contempt of Parliament? Seems to be a bit of a balls up. And again, tonight seems to be an opportunity for us to kind of look at politics across the spectrum and have a look at what's going on. It's funny, coming up to the election, Chewy, it's this idea that both parties are kind of putting out fires. And I wonder if this will be a series, this will be like a political season of attrition, and it'll be the one that fucks up the least will end up be the one that wins it, not necessarily the best one.
Way, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can have the season of dreams, and then in the last 15 minutes it all falls apart. Is that a sporting reference, Pat? Please tell me.
Say that again. What's the sporting reference?
Like, you can have a really solid game, and then the last 4 minutes it falls apart, and you lose.
Yeah, game
it's
of
a
two
sporting
halves.
analogy, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah,
it's a sports
studying.
ball. You've been studying a bit of sports ball.
ball.
It is a bit like that. I always talk about it's like if you have a really good round of golf, but you cock up the last 3 holes, so you feel like it's been a shit round because you end.
You don't want to cock up any holes, Pat.
No, you don't want to cock up any holes. No, and look, here's one as well for Kimberly as well. $60, she says, and size inclusive. One of the two. I'm talking to 2 t-shirt companies. I am talking to AS Colour, which people have mentioned there, and I'm talking to one who I'm reliably informed is better quality than AS Colour. So that's good. And the one that I'm talking to, who I'm told by printers is a better company than AS Colour, goes up to 9XL Chewy. So nearly enough to get one for you, mate. Nearly.
Camping season's coming up.
Yeah, there we go. So there you go. Very good. All right. So tonight we're going to be talking about that, but also we want to talk about an absolutely brilliant column written by Dave Armstrong. Dave Armstrong is a playwright and a satirist. He is a multiple award-winning playwright, and he writes for The Post. There you go. I didn't balls it up the very first time. I said The Post. I didn't say the Post, which you don't say anymore. I said The Post. And we want to welcome Dave to the show to have a chat about what he put out today. Dave, good evening to you.
Kia ora koroa. Good to be here.
Kia ora. Good to be with you, sir. Hey, now, we've been talking about Simeon Brown and his absolute I was going to say brain fart over the weekend as to what he said. Okay, this is a little bit judgy and a little bit wrong of me, but I'm reliably informed by several insiders who know the inner workings of Parliament that he's not a very smart guy. So maybe he just thought he was making a very clever, good move to get votes, and it's ended up bouncing back incredibly poorly. So much so that the walk back over the last couple of days has been ridiculous to watch and has been has just been farcical. No, what I meant was, if old people can't read road signs, then that might be dangerous. Just absolutely ridiculous justifications for things that were never said over the weekend, but it's that revisionist history saying, no, this is what I meant. This is what I meant. So we've been talking a lot about that. Look, do you want to just have because your article, your writings today addresses this brilliantly. But before we kind of have a look at your writing and talk more about that, do you have anything you want to add or say to that overall conversation that we've been having the last couple of nights?
Yeah, well, I think that's interesting. You're talking about Simeon Brown. On one hand, yes, I've never met the guy. I don't know how intelligent he is or not. I think on some things he's been very well spoken. But the thing is, you say that you sort of had a brain fart. He's saying what, I suspect the majority of national voters think. I don't, or certainly in regional New Zealand, I don't think there's a great technique where people go, oh, that's just an extremist, or that's just someone, on the fringes. I mean, the left do that too. Actually, what he's saying is pretty mainstream National Party thinking in a lot of the provinces. So I don't think he's a minority. But what he's done is he's mucked it up for the caucus, because the caucus, New Zealand's a great little place. The Labour caucus are always to the right of the people that vote for them, and the National caucus are always to the left of the people that vote for them. And so what he's done is he said what you're not, he said in public what which you only say at the family dinner table.
Yeah.
So
he said out loud what he's supposed to keep in his head.
That's right. And then, of course, Luxon did the same thing. He said, "Oh, I can't tell the difference between Te Whare and Waka Kotahi," and even though Luxon's learning Māori himself, and he's actually been sort of in some ways quite progressive on the whole race relations debate. So it's a massive cock up for the National Party, because they've got their own members saying things. And I don't know if you watched the newsroom. They got the people as they walked out, and Harete Hipango, she was just like furious at what Simeon had said. And then the guy from Hamilton East, his name escapes me right now, but he was very sort of moderate, and he said, "Yeah, I'm relaxed. Yeah, but you might be relaxed, but look what's going on, So I sort of personally just reflected on that and thought, they've got a pothole here, the National Party. They're banging into it. Because
a pothole's an appropriate thing. They've got a pothole. They now need to fix it, because the other thing they're doing is they're promising all of us that the roads are going to be perfect once they get in, which is a nice thing to have. I was going to say as well, you talked about, people don't know what the words mean. I saw a journalist talking to Chris Hipkins about that. I'm going to say it was Jenna Lynch. It's always Jenna Lynch. It may not have been Jenna Lynch, but there was a journalist challenging Christopher Hipkins as to what Waka Kotahi means. She's like, what does it mean? And he's like, well, it's a New Zealand Transport Agency, but what do the words mean? And Christopher Hipkins went, I don't know. And I thought about that for a while, and I went, Chewy, do you know what the word Patrick means? There's a meaning to it. Do you know what it means?
No.
But you still use it in the context of what it's for, which is my name. It means nobleman, if you're just wanting to know. That's what it means. It means nobleman.
Fancy man.
It is, but you don't know the meaning of the word, but you can still use it in a correct context in an appropriate way. So it was a stupid question, and now it's a stupid argument about people don't know what this means. If I didn't know the definition of my street name, I'd still know where my street was, and I'd still know what it was called to identify. So that's all like just a bit of bullshit, if you ask me.
And the other thing with Māori too is a lot of names, and like in English, the names don't always make sense on the first thing. Like you could think, oh, Waka Kotahi means first waka, first canoe, but it doesn't. And so you get this sort of people have to think about it. But I think that I've really watched closely the whole Don Brash thing and the whole anti-Māori on radio and anti-Māori street names, and I think there's a very deep underlying hostility amongst many Pākehā, not a majority, but a minority that really hate the fact that this is happening, and they really find it's a threat to their life. And I just think Māori makes my life, Māori language makes my life more interesting. And as a writer and a satirist, I can make jokes in two languages. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic that we have this rich, what I call New Zealand English. I'm not a Māori speaker, although I've tried to learn some te reo, and I do use it in my writing. But I just think it's fantastic. We have the apple tree and the pear tree of English, and we have the plum tree of Māori, and we can pick the fruit and make it one great big fantastic sort of language. So I don't see what the problem is about. If you're driving, you're going to get the idea. If there's two names, you're going to your eyes are going to go to the one you understand. And the other thing too is, like I noticed today, they said, let's just have Māori for the unimportant stuff. This is from the National Party things. But let's have English for the real important stuff. Now, what message are we sending there to people? We're saying here that okay, this isn't a big font, so it's in English and it's important, but the little font is just for the people that, and I think that's the most offensive thing you can do in a country where it's meant to be bicultural, and where you've signed actually an agreement that says we'll try and have an equality.
There is also going to be, Chewy, road signs that already have Māori and English on them. I'm sure if you go into Waikato somewhere, there'll be a road sign that goes Rotorua that way, Hamilton that way. Oh my God, it's got Māori on it and it's got English on it, and no one seems to have a problem. So if it says Dunedin and Otepoti, what's the big deal?
We've got road signs that are entirely in Māori.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with road signs, is that they should be clear and understandable whether you understand the language or not. That's their whole purpose of being. And there's so many countries in the world that have bilingual signs, and they've just managed it. I think this just says, it says worlds for what National think of people, is that there's no possible way that they can adapt. It's just all too hard. We don't want anything to change. And people are adaptable. People are flexible. They have the mental plasticity to take in new ideas. And I think your comments about people in the regions pushing back against this sort of stuff, I think it comes from one of two places. It's either they feel fragile, that they don't know this sort of stuff. It's like whenever you start something and you don't know, it makes you feel a little bit small and vulnerable. Like I other people know this better than I do, and I feel bad, right? And then there's the people that are like, it's a little bit more weaponized. It's no, because I'm a white person and white people are on top. And they might not put it as bluntly as that, but that's certainly
actually, Tim Vandermolen, who I actually respect as an MP on some things, he said, he didn't say on top, he said in a bigger font, and I just think that says speaks volumes.
Yes.
That just a slight. We need a bigger font for English, and I've worked in museums and stuff, and the whole point about what you put on top or what you put on bottom, how you do it side by side, it's quite an issue. And the thing that comes loud and clear to most rational people is equality. Make it the same. If you have to put one on top of the other, then mix it around. If you put them side by side, that's better. But don't make one dark and easy to read and one light and difficult to read. There's things you can do. But I think I should also say, Don Brash is a very urban person, so let's not only blame the regions for this. It's a nationwide thing. There's pockets in the cities who are, but I absolutely agree, Chewy. It's an insecurity. It's like, oh my God, these people are flexing their muscles, and that could be the end of me. And I think that it's exactly the opposite.
And I think actually the National Party knows that the narrative they're pushing is not true. I think you're both right that this is a feeling, let's say, coming more commonly from the rural area, but I don't believe the National Party actually buys into it, but they know it will get them votes, which is the definition of dog whistling.
Yeah, I'd say a majority of National MPs certainly don't agree with it. And a lot of their people, and they've said, repeatedly, no, we support Chris Bishop, Nicola Willis, we support bilingual signs. It's just that, they're a broad church, just like the Green Party are and just like the Labour Party are. And so they have a variety of views. And you could, as an impartial observer, say, but their political management on this is not too great. The other thing I'd say is while I do think there is I wouldn't call it a hatred, but there's an insecurity about the road signs. And this is something I tried to do in the satire and the column, is I don't think everyone that sort of runs up their hands and says, "Oh my God, this woke stuff. I can't understand it. What's happening to New Zealand? And they're calling it Aotearoa." I don't think everyone that says that is a terrible racist. I don't think they're
No.
they're not white supremacists. They're not horrible people, Nazis trying to, they're sort of, if you, the terrible thing about being a satirist is you start liking your targets. And I started writing this guy who drives his granddaughter in his Lexus to Hamilton, and he hates calling it Kitty Roa, and he loves that Auckland's named after a person we've never heard of and don't ever regard in our history. And the terrible thing is I started making fun of him, and then I started really liking him. And the one Māori guy at the bowling club that happens to forget his pen to sign a petition against the new Māori name. The terrible thing I have as a satirist is I like the people that I take the piss out of. And so I end up going, well, they're not all bad. They're not all terrible people. And I do think this is true about a lot of people that are talking about road signs.
I think perhaps a big part of it is they are, and I don't use this as a put down, literally as a not having enough knowledge. They're ignorant as well. And
there's a bit of ignorance going on.
Ignorance is not necessarily bliss. Like I've told the story before about knowing a really elderly person, really, really elderly, who's passed now, who made it to past 100, who had some very horrible things to say about the Japanese people in general. But when you get to hear her backstory, that her husband was taken as a prisoner of war in Japan and came back a different man, you have the ability to step aside and say, I hate the words you're using, but I can give you the grace for why you have that feeling. And when you talk about not, starting to like some of the subjects you're talking about, it's like, I think, and I'm not in your position, I haven't written like you, but when you hear some of those things, let's say it's these people who have been sucked into the anti-vaxxer world, I typically, as best I can, feel empathy first for them, but then for the instigators, you feel pretty angry, especially if they're grifting. So feel pretty angry about this when it comes to the National Party, because they're playing a dog whistling game. But for the people who don't understand, like I put a message out today that says, if people don't get yet that even if you're not Māori, the Māori story is a part of your story if you're a part of New Zealand, because it is part of New Zealand. If you don't get that, then you're missing a whole part about being a Kiwi. Now, you've mentioned the writings. We should probably get to it as well. We don't have to rush. Actually, do you want to respond to what I've just said, Dave, before we get to this? You're more than welcome.
Oh, no, I agree totally. And I think you have to take people's background, you have to take their age into account. When my father, who died a few years ago in his 90s, when he was a kid, people would talk about horo whenua, because they didn't realize WH, was a f sound. And I grew up saying horo whenua because that's how I was taught. But I lived in the world of really bad mispronunciation. So I'm really good on whangarei because I've never lived there. But parapara umu, we always called it parapara as kids. So I'm one of those people I'm satirizing. I'm that guy.
You've said it the long way. I've heard people just call it pram.
Oh yeah, well they do that. We never got that. Luckily, we never got that bad in my family. But and so I think New Zealand is a work in progress. And to say to people you disagree with, oh, you're a terrible person, how dare you win the election, or how dare you? I don't have that view, and I like to think that I work with people from all sorts of walks of life, and sometimes some of their attitudes might horrify me, but they never horrify me enough to say write them off as people and don't be nice to them, and don't think that they're not redeemable. And I think that makes me not as vicious a satirist as I could be, but I also sometimes think being gentle can make more points than being nasty.
I actually experienced that today. Actually, I had a man that decided to tell me a story that involved him imitating an Indian accent.
Yeah.
And in previous years, I probably would have ignored it. Online, I would have called him all manner of nasty names. But in person, I was like, I don't think that story really needed the imitation.
Yeah, that's right.
And he kind of went, oh, you know what I mean? And I was like, you were talking to a person in a call center.
Yeah.
It doesn't change your story.
Your story.
But, so maybe for next time. And he kind of just went, but I really, I think that'll stick with him more.
Yeah.
Than a more aggressive approach.
As someone who's made mistakes and tried to write comedy, and we all, who knows where the bodies are buried. I think it's a far better approach is to be sort of reasonable and talk about it, and not pretend that you're just pure as the driven snow, and that everything you've already. I've made terrible mistakes and had to apologize and stuff. So I mean, I don't believe in everyone being sort of holier than thou, and dare I say it, as a self-declared lefty, sometimes the left can be pretty tough. You've got to do all the right things and tick the right boxes, and
we've done whole shows on that.
Yeah, and we've been the target of the left in the way that you're describing pretty heavily.
I've got the T-shirt. Yeah, no, me too. So I think that's a thing one can get very critical, and of course, when you're in the industry, as I am occasionally, of trying to make people laugh, sometimes you can miscalculate or say something that offends people.
Well, this one has made a lot of people laugh. We were just talking before we came on air about this has gone a little bit viral, this article, so much so that it was behind a paywall. We think it's probably not now because I don't pay a subscription to be a part of the post. I can see it. So we're assuming it's not behind the paywall anymore. People can investigate that for themselves. The way I found it was to look up Dave Armstrong, and I looked up kibosh because I thought there's probably not too many articles that you've written with the word kibosh in it, Dave, and that was a pretty easy way.
A little known fact, I didn't write that title. So if you write a column in New Zealand, you don't write the title, you just write the column, and then they come up, and it's very clever. I've got very good sub-editors because, of course, kibosh is a foreign word.
Exactly.
And so they've nailed it on that one. But yeah, so often people write to me and say, I didn't like you using the word kibosh, in your column. And I go, well, actually, I didn't. It was someone else's job to make the to do the headline. But everything else is mine, including the typos.
In fact, what I'll do right now is I'll just put it into the YouTube chat so people can find it for themselves should they want to have a look. Right. So let's have a look at the article, because what you've done is very, very clever and very, very funny. You've taken on the persona of someone in the... let's just read it. It says, the other day I drive the Lexus to Tauranga, or Safe Anchorage, as we call it at my North Shore Bowling Club, which has admittedly made us a bit of a laughing stock since the Rena disaster. Anyway, I come up to a stop sign. Underneath is a word in Māori I don't understand. The stop sign could have been saying, don't stop, stop, not really, or stop if you like it, feel like it, or stop only if you're not Māori. But I don't know, because like most of us at the bowling club, I only speak English. I'm not going to read the whole article out, Dave, but some bits that particularly tickled me. You're talking about, as you said before, about your granddaughter, well, the character's granddaughter, and that granddaughter's, and I'm going to use the word, you don't use this word in the article, but she's a bit woke and she understands more of this Marialism.
That's right.
And this is about your the granddaughter. It says, she says I'm a racialist, but how could I be if my favourite rugby player is Ruby Parsonsbird? Ruby Tui, got it.
Parsonsbird, yeah.
Parsonsbird. Boy, that girl's a dag. Anyway, the granddaughter needs to get back to uni, so I give her a lift. With granddaughter in the Lexus, she's able to translate all the Māori words on the traffic signs. You're never going to believe it, but they mean the same thing in Māori as in English. I drop her off in Kirikiriroa, or long stretch of Graveltron, as we call it at the bowling club. Who would have thought Māori predicted boy races all these years ago? Clever buggers. Something else you say of these bowling club people with the granddaughter, we drive straight to Mangere, or lazy as we call it at the bowling club. To be honest, the folks at the bowling club called Mangere lazy well before that they knew that was the literal Māori translation. Very clever, like that bit. And you finish off by saying, come on, people, this is New Zealand and we speak English. Labour Party, is that apparatchiks? What's that word? Apparatchiks may think it's de rigueur to pollute our language with a potpourri of foreign words and phrases and expect Kiwis to accept this carte blanche. No can do. We will remain in cultural cul-de-sac if we continue this laissez-faire approach to English. It's time to say adieu to foreign-sounding road signs. I tip my chapeau. I'm going to go chapeau to Chris and Simeon for turning this into a cause celeb. Let's have a blitzkrieg on wokeness and take a tomahawk to bilingual road signs until they are totally verboten. Brilliant, funny, loved it, and wanted to talk to you about it today. Yeah, golf clap. Lovely, Dave. Very, very nice. And I remember, I mean, I think I often find watching stand-up comedians are sometimes the people that can tell the most truth with comedy. You know, they can really cut to it by using comedy to speak absolute truth. And this article is brilliant, and the way you've done it is so perfect. And yeah, I wanted to talk to you tonight and acknowledge that on the show. And people,
thank you very much. It's great to have a chat. And like I say, I even though it's humour and all that, the other thing I'd add too is that this guy, I think, is typical in that you know, when I think that the thing that terrifies white New Zealanders the most is being called racist, especially by Māori. And I think a lot of, you know, what I've loved writing about that character is like, he is someone who loves Ruby Tui and thinks she's wonderful. And he's someone that, you know, he does have Māori friends and he thinks they're great. And he thinks his granddaughter's that great. She's just got a bit of shit on the spark plugs, you know. So I think it's important to acknowledge that when you call out stuff like this or talk about it, things, you know, it's not a dastardly. These people are not terrible people, but hopefully the national debate, for want of a better word, the nationwide debate makes everyone a little bit more tolerant and a little bit happier. You know, if I've done, I got a great tweet where someone said, I came home in a bad mood today and then I read your column and it made me laugh. And for me, that is better than any award or any adulation or, you know, circulation numbers. One person out there just smiled a bit, and, you know, that's a sort of cool thing to hear.
I'll remind you of that when you win your Tony, Dave. That a person smiling is better than any award. It's better than any award.
Mate, I won't even be in the long list or the extra long list.
Dave Armstrong, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you, you know, I guess trusting us to jump on and have a bit of a chat. Really enjoyed having you here, and thank you for your writing. It has brought a lot of joy to a lot of people today as we see it floating around the internet. So thanks for coming on and good on you.
Thank you very much. Great fun.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
So there you go. And as I said, guys, the article, if you're watching us on something other than what's that thing called that we go on the internet with? YouTube, the tube of the U. Then if you Google Dave Armstrong, Kibosh, Dave Armstrong, The Post, bilingual, you will find it for yourself. If you're watching us on YouTube, I've put it in the live chat. If you're watching this on demand, the live chat for some reason sometimes takes 24 hours to generate. Don't know why it does that. That's a YouTube thing. So
I'm just going to put it in the comments at the end as well.
Cool. Very good.
One thing that I thought was the absolute cherry on top that this happened on the same day that this came out, right, is Luxon saying that he didn't oppose te reo on road signs per se.
Yeah, that's part of the thing. It's like,
of course, a Latin term, you muppet.
Oh, very good. Okay, team. Anything else? There's a few chats we've started there. Anything else we want to put out there?
What do we got? This one tickled me. I mean, let's be honest with each other. No matter what language or pictures are on the signs, Dunedin drivers won't read them anyway. That is very, very true. Unless
it has an icon of a burning couch, then they may pay attention to it.
David here says adaptation has effectively been stymied by a tiny but vocal minority of elderly do-nothing numbnuts who would rather be well into their graves before any real changes are actually implemented. And look, these are the people that have the time to go to the bowling club meetings in the middle of the day to hammer out a letter to the ODT editor that are going to flood your regional news Facebook group page with their reckons. Yeah. I think the vast majority of people are either ambivalent, where they'll just get on with life and they'll just adapt because that's what people do, or the people that are just quietly just getting on with things. You know, the ones we tend to hear from on both sides are the ones that are really motivated to say something, which can be really good or it can be really, really bad.
I mean,
and election year brings them all out.
Even saying that, though, you say the word adapt, and it's not that I disagree with you, but how much do you really have to adapt to figure out that's a fucking school?
Yeah.
You're like how much adaptation do you need to figure out that's a school? How much adaptation do you need to know that the local shops are still 1 kilometre down this road, or that there's no camping here? Do you know what I mean? Like, I get what you're saying, and I don't necessarily disagree, but in reality, it's a pretty low bar.
We will push through this because we always do.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember when they added the Te Reo verse of the national anthem before a rugby match? You remember what that was like?
No, I don't.
People were angry, and now people don't care.
Yeah. And even Simeon Brown says, I like doing the national anthem in Te Reo, just don't want my fucking signs in that.
Yep.
I was going to say something racially charged. I was going to say something racially charged there, as if it was Simeon Brown, but in my head I went, no, stop, that's one step too far. So I stopped myself.
See, that's growth. As someone that once found themselves on the verge of tears with my train ticket in German at a Dutch railway station when the board was in French, and I don't speak any of those languages, you'd be amazed at what you can adapt to.
Yeah. All right. Hey, there has been some issues within Labour as well, and we are looking at the story surrounding Education Minister Jan Tinetti. Let's go to News Hub tonight and get the story on that. We'll also probably have a look at the actual, it's a little bit long-winded, but it's interesting to actually have a look at what the speaker said word for word. It's only a couple of minutes. But let's have a look what's going on with Jan Tinetti. Sorry?
Can I put up one comment before we go? Oh,
please. Go.
It's so good, and it's so humbling.
Hang on.
We all need to read this.
Let's get rid of that first so we don't take any. Okay, go. I'm ready. I'm waiting.
This is your medicine, people. Just remember, we are the bowling club members Youth of Tomorrow will complain about. Oh, that's I've taken my medicine tonight. Thank you for that, JK. Jesus.
Is that a t-shirt? Do we have to pay people who suggest things if we put them on our t-shirts?
If we pick your slogan, you get the t-shirt. How about that?
T-shirt for free. That's a good idea. Because that's not bad, eh? That's actually not. That's not a bad one. It's not a bad one.
All right, Pat, you may proceed.
May I please continue the fucking show?
You may.
Thanks, love. So Jan Tinetti's is she in trouble? There's a couple of things I'm intrigued with about this. Has what she done broken the rules? Has what she's done, or allegedly done, caused any negatives? Like, so for example, we'll play the article. You probably know what's going on. It sort of seems that she's done something that she first made a mistake in Parliament, then didn't apologise for it quick enough. I guess one of the big questions I have is, did that matter to the actual events surrounding the lie? The mistake, the alleged mistake, or is this just having someone hauled over the coals for sort of breaking procedure and protocol? Not sure about the answers to any of those, but let's have a look at the overall story, shall we?
News Hub can reveal the Prime Minister's staff knew the Education Minister's office was holding up the release of official school attendance data.
The saga has seen Jan Tinetti hauled off to Parliament's court. Political reporter Amelia Wade has the details.
Mr Speaker,
Jan Tinetti is a minister under pressure and a minister keeping quiet.
about sort of when you were forced to correct the record.
I've already said I'm not commenting on that. I wonder if anyone's got anything else that they want to talk to me about.
Tinetti's in a tangle over whether she missed.
Can I say it's never really, unless she literally can't because it's subdued to say or something like that, it's never good to have a public servant say, fuck off, not answering that. You know, it's never, ever a good look.
Parliament about her office having a hand in when officials released Term 3 attendance data.
I'm not commenting on anything to do with Privileges Committee.
The data was ready for release in December.
That's sort of what I mean, Privileges Committee, if it was something that's sort of basically before the parliamentary court that she can't talk about, but she didn't actually say that. She said, I'm not going to. So even that's a bit unclear. It might be within procedures, it might not, I don't know. All I'm saying is not a good look.
Privileges Committee.
The data was ready for release in December. Her office delayed it by 2 months to release it the day after Tinetti announced a $74 million truancy package.
So here's one of the questions. Did that 2 month delay, so that means I guess December school holidays was released in I guess January or February, did that 2 month delay cause any issues within the ministry, within the schooling, within the, you know, society in general? You know, was there an issue about that, or is it just that we're going to hear that she gave some allegedly wrong information out in politics? So the first thing, I'm going to use a really silly example, but you know, if you didn't get onto your cancer diagnosis quick enough, it would cause an issue within your body. Did her not releasing that information cause an issue within the education sector? Like, did it lead to something that was a detrimental and negative impact, or are we just talking about procedure within Parliament here? I'm not entirely sure of the answer to that yet, but that's one of the questions I'm wondering.
I don't know. I don't know whether my office was aware of those conversations or not.
News Hub can reveal Chris Hipkins' office was aware of conversations. In response to a parliamentary question from National MP Erica Stanford, Hipkins said on January 30, my office was advised by Tinetti's office they intended to release the data to be aligned with the truancy package announcement.
What we do know is that Chris Hipkins' office was made aware that the data would be delayed. The question for Chris Hipkins now is, what did he personally know?
And while all this was going on behind the scenes in offices, Tinetti told the House on February 22.
The Ministry of Education is responsible for the data. I have no say over that.
But right after she said that, Tinetti's staff told her they had in fact been talking to the ministry about the data's release. It took her a week to correct the record.
Subsequently became aware that my office did have input into the timing of the release of the data.
Ministers have to correct the record as soon as they realise that they've stuffed up. Yesterday, Jan Tinetti was referred to what's called Parliament's highest court, the Privileges Committee, because the Speaker wants a ruling on whether her correction took too long and whether that amounts to contempt.
I have confidence in Jan Tinetti.
He can absolutely have confidence in me as Education Minister.
The committee is meeting tomorrow to decide when Tinetti has her day in Parliament's court.
So we're actually going to come back to this this news report about the next thing we're going to talk about, because they go on to that conversation. So let me just make this clear. So there was data that they had pre-Christmas. There was a delay in the release of that data till post-Christmas. There was a claim made by Jan Tinetti that she had no say in the release date. That appears to be incorrect. She then took a week to correct the record. So what this is about if she had have corrected that the next day, this wouldn't be a case, wouldn't be a situation, because that would have been immediately. So therefore, is correcting it 5 days later a quote-unquote crime in Parliament? That's what this is all about. No one's made the claim within that article, even the opposition, that the delay of the data has caused any issues. It's all about you took a week to correct the record. That's too long. That's what the whole complaint's about, and that's what's seeing if she's going to be contempt. I see your face is not looking particularly interested, Chewy. Or
what the hell?
Yeah.
What is this? Is this what they can rustle up? I mean, this seems like on very low down on the scheme of things, isn't it? It's like something happened. It was a bit slow. It's being looked at. Cool. It's hardly a world-shaking scandal, is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just not seeing it. Yeah, sure. It sounds like a procedural slap on the wrist with absolutely no negative consequences.
As we know right now, we haven't been, and you would think if the opposition had it, they'd use it. We haven't been told of anything that the delay of the data, any issues that caused within the education sector. It seems it's 100% about, and I don't know what days of the week they were, but you spoke on Tuesday where you spoke incorrectly. You then corrected that the following Tuesday. That's what this is all about.
Wow. Yeah, okay. The only thought I have here is Mike McRoberts with his shirt off. I think you made a passing reference to that earlier, so I just thought I'd go and find it. Yeah, no, that's yeah, like when these issues come out, right? Is okay. I can somehow like Claire Curran, right, and her procedural thing of like not putting meetings in the diary, and she was involved in the initial talks about the Radio New Zealand merger and that sort of thing. That was like, yeah, on face, this seems pretty boring, but actually, the follow-on things for that, yeah, okay, I can see how that goes really wrong, really, really quickly.
Yeah, what were the meetings? Who did you meet with? What were they about? Why don't we know what's transparent?
That's important.
Yeah,
but also boring. This is just boring. I don't see why a political editor is going, yeah, let's run a story about this. That's nothing more than a 5-minute comment.
You talk about boring. I'll play you a little bit, and you'll just see the kind of procedure that has to be gone through to bring this. So this is the Speaker of the House. I don't know if we can go through the whole thing, talking about how serious this could be within Parliament's rules.
Members, a matter of privilege has been raised with me alleging that the Honourable Jan Tinetti deliberately misled the House by failing to correct a misleading statement at the earliest opportunity.
So that's also interesting. So deliberately misled the House by telling you on Tuesday that something was wrong rather than Thursday. Deliberately misleading the House. The accusation is quite strong, deliberately misleading the House. The procedure doesn't seem to be anywhere near as serious, but there are rules, I guess.
In a supplementary question on 22 February 2023, the Minister was asked to categorically state that she played no part in the delay of release of school attendance information. The Minister replied that she already had and that it was a decision for the Ministry of Education. The Minister corrected this answer on the 2nd of May, stating, "I subsequently became aware that my office did have input into the timing of the release of the data through email correspondence with officials at the Ministry of Education." The Minister has stated that she was informed by her staff after question time on 22nd of February of her staff's
I am losing the will to live a little bit here, Joey.
with the Ministry on the release of data. She has also stated that she did not know that her answer needed to be corrected until she received a letter from me on the 1st of May, after which she corrected it. It is an important principle that the House can trust the accuracy of ministerial replies to parliamentary questions. While mistakes are sometimes made which can result in the House receiving an answer containing a misleading statement, it is vitally important.
Oh, you
that as
sped
soon
it
as this
up.
is
It's
discovered,
not
the Minister
drugs
returns to
kicked
the
in.
House to correct the answer at the earliest opportunity. I have considered the matter raised and considered its degree of importance. It is for the Privileges Committee to determine whether the delay in correcting an inaccurate statement in this instance amounts to contempt. I rule that a question of privilege does arrive from the time taken to correct a misleading statement to the House. The question therefore stands referred to the Privileges Committee.
There you go.
Point of order.
Point of order, the Honourable Barbara Edmonds.
No. You know that he's speaking slowly when you put it on double speed and it's still very understandable.
Yeah, it sounded normal. I just thought his coffee had kicked in there. If we're going to be fair, and we try to be, there's a lot that you could criticise the Minister of Education for at the moment. Right?
Yep. I'm sorry, I just looked at a photo. I'll show you the photo I looked at, and then I'll come back to you. I'm not
Mike
trying to
McRoberts again? If it's the same picture, oh God. Pat, how much patron money do we have? And how many billboards can we make, and how big?
This is the start of the clip. I didn't do this. This is look. You can see this is the start. It's on 0. This is not me. This is the start of the clip. I just can't take my eyes off it. Sorry. You're talking about important education things. I'm just not going to look for a second.
I do want to grab a screen grab of that later for my phone, but the question still stands. How much Patreon money do we have? How many billboards can we print? How big? Unrelated to that image, I promise.
What about we get some T-shirts printed for month 2? Do you know what it is? Look, I'm sorry, and we all can do this. Anyone can do this out there tomorrow for me and this. You can get a screen grab, which looks terrible, but we know. But the thing about this image is there's just no lips and all tongue.
I never want to hear that phrase again.
Where have his lips gone? It's just lips. Do you know what it is?
Anyway.
No, do you know why? This is why National is going to make women pay for contraception, because you look at this image and you're never going to fuck again. It's really, really easy. Oh, there you go, Peter.
Anyway, if I could drag the shit show back on topic, which feels very out of character.
Please do.
I feel dirty. There's a lot that you could criticize the Minister for Education at the moment. They're not batting 100, right? And we've kind of been all over the Ministry of Education for a whole bunch of things over the last year. But this ain't it.
Yeah.
Like, if you want a gun for her, why would you not go, hey, how's the teacher strike going? They've accepted the latest offer. It's a good offer. No, you've got 20,000 registered teachers that are furious with Labor going into an election. Maybe you might want to put that one to bed.
Yeah.
You know, you've got all of the issues with the university funding. Why is no one lashing the Minister for Education over this? No, we're talking about a dry balls procedural issue which will go nowhere. It's just, you could have been talking about something else.
I'm doing my best. I'm trying. I'm trying. People who listen to the audio podcast aren't going to know what the fuck is going on. I'm trying my best, but people are not helping in the chat. They're just really not. I agree with everything you've said. Okay. I don't know what to do.
You're going to put the image back up, aren't you?
Well, what's this next story we're talking about?
All right. Don't worry. If you're good, Pat, I'll give you another look at the Mike McRoberts picture just as a palate cleanser.
Let's do this to start with. Let's get back to the news story. That actually it's the same article we were just looking at, but they came out of that story, and I don't know if this was breaking news or not at the time. Actually, what time was that one put up there? That was put up at that was only up 3 hours ago when I did it. So yeah, okay, so it's pretty new, because at the end of that story that we were just talking about, Jan Tinetti, they were saying now, Tinetti, they went on to this story. Let's play the story first, and we'll go back and have a listen to what the almighty tongue had to say about it.
And Amelia joins us now from Parliament with an update on another political matter. So, Amelia, the National Party's confirmed it will reinstate prescription fees for contraception.
The centrepiece of the budget was a $150 million a year move to scrap the $5 fee on prescriptions and make them free. And the National Party initially said that it would reinstate the fees, but then U-turned and said that it would do carve-outs for gold card holders and low-income New Zealanders with community services cards. And today, the National Party leader, Mr Luxon, confirmed to Newshub there wouldn't be an additional carve-out for anyone needing contraception prescriptions. And we understand that was one of the key demographics that the government was looking to target with this free prescription package. The Health Minister has already waded in, and she says that contraceptions are not a nice to have, and the Labour Party appears to have been ready and waiting for this moment. They've already launched an attack ad saying that the National Party is out of touch with women.
So that was, to bring context to it, that was what Luxon, or at least the National, was saying, that, you know, these things that are nice to have, criticising Labor over the $5 prescription.
Do you know what's nice to have?
What's that?
Not an enormous amount of teen pregnancy.
Well, this is one of the things.
Do you know what else is not nice? Is nice to have?
What? Lips?
Not women dying from back alley abortions. That's a nice to have.
So this is the thing, and I was thinking this today. Luxon, remember? Luxon, who has, do you know what? I can't find it on the internet. I wonder if it's been scrubbed. Who compared abortion to murder, tantamount to murder, is what he said. In other words, he doesn't want people getting abortions, right? That's his pro-life stance, his anti-choice stance, whichever way you want to look at it. Yet he also is making it harder for people to get contraception. Now, people might say it's only $5, it's only $5. It's also, and am I being tongue-in-cheek when I say it's a war on women? But it's the kind of thing
that
to
say tongue-in-cheek.
That men don't need to worry about. Not that they don't have to worry about safe sex and protection and stuff, but men don't get contraception pills. Only women do. So therefore, it says something that only impacts women. And can I say this? Let me put this up. To show the lunacy of this is when people like Cameron Slater look at this decision and go, what the fuck are you doing, Luxon? This is a tweet from Cameron Slater today saying, does this fucking clown want to lose? So if those people can see, forget about Cameron Slater's, I don't know what his why he's suggesting that. He might be suggesting that because he just wants them to win, or whether it's because women need it. Either way, whether you think it's a bad political move or a bad health move, the world over thinks that this is ludicrous. Another place that National's going to go and die on, a hill they're going to die on, which is going to blow up in their face. Speaking of faces.
Go on, put it up. You know you want to.
Let's actually have a listen to what he said.
Because if it's just wet tongue noises, I'm out.
Because in fairness to him, he didn't overtly say, no, we're not going to do it. He talks about in need, people in need. And he talks about if people in need to get contraceptive, then they're in need. But it just seems to be so amateurish in the game of politics that you're not aware that this is going to be seen and taken as women getting prescription is a nice thing to have, not an essential part of women's health, because that's how it comes across. Let's have a look to what his tongue had to say.
Said that you would look to extend it for people with gold cards or was it community services card? What about women with contraception?
We don't want any change. Yeah, what I'd say to you very clearly is we're making sure that we can actually support people who desperately need help with their prescription charges. We want a targeted approach. That means high medical use. It means certainly you've spent over $100.
Bureaucracy.
It means making sure people who are on community services card and super gold cards, that's where it should be targeted.
What about the high medical use? You know, women need contraception every month. They have to go and spend $5 every month to get their contraception. Do you think, will you look at carving out that for women?
No, I think you know, in terms of high medical use or with respect to, you know, community service
every month,
cards,
you know, people need this medication every month.
Sure, but what we're trying to say is we're targeting it really clearly to people who are desperately in need.
But you're not!
If they meet that criteria and they actually need help and support being able to do that, then we should definitely support them doing that. Through the support, a targeted support to people, say, on a community services card or high medical needs, or in other cases around super gold cards.
So as you just said, bureaucracy, Chewy, means testing something, which is what you're talking about. Targeted is means testing. Those who need it get it. Ultimately will cost far more and be far harder to actually make happen than a blanket statement. Now, yes, there is a tipping point somewhere. I suggest this is not the tipping point. You know, there's a tipping point where targeted will work if it's 3% of the population versus 97. But this isn't. This is half of all women. You know,
this is people with wombs between the ages of, say, 10 and 60.
Yeah.
You know, that's not targeted. That's being a dickhead.
Yeah. let's do it. And I think in this freeze frame, he stopped for a quick pray. He's praying right now, so we'll let him finish his prayer.
Jesus,
and
take the wheel.
Then we'll continue on.
Why is needing contraception to you not a high medical need?
Well, I'm just trying to say, from a prescriptions point of view, we're just taking a very simple policy to say, let's target it to people who most need help.
How? We don't get the how. How are you going to target it? How much is that going to cost? What bureaucracy is that going to need? Is that going to be cheaper to target? Or is all the effort put into that going to end up costing more than just giving it to everyone?
Getting support and actually paying for these bills. We don't want people not to be able to take medicine, be able to get the drugs that they actually desperately need to get hold of.
But do you see that $5 barrier as a barrier to contraception for
if $5 is a barrier, and for low-income people, particularly people who are on community services cards,
do you think it's unfair that women
help? It's a different issue, but with respect to the prescriptions, what I'm saying to you really clearly is that actually if people need assistance,
I'm saying it really clearly. Why aren't you getting it?
That's a targeted approach is the right way to go.
There you go. That's where he cuts out. So, I mean,
do you know what I heard there?
You go.
I heard Christopher Luxon announcing a new tax.
Expand.
A new tax on women.
Right.
Of $60 per year. Minimum.
Women who are getting the pill, who are getting contraception.
The pill every month, $5 a month. That's your tax for being a gross lady with your womb. I've also seen some of the worst takes on this on Twitter. Would you like to see a man completely miss everything?
Oh, David.
But in a spectacularly confident way. This man is a big thinker. So, you know, open up your third eye because here it comes. Contraceptives are still available. Contraceptives are still subsidized. If you can't afford a $5 co-payment, then you really can't afford another child.
God.
Yeah, dude. That's the point.
What about if you just don't want another child?
What
or you
if
don't
it's
want
none of
or you
your
don't want a
goddamn
child
business?
So if you're 16 years old, 17 years old, so if you can't afford the $5 and you're 17 years old, then you should be you should be basically saying, I want a child.
What are the long-term costs to the state for an unwanted child or a dangerous pregnancy?
Yep.
You know, I'm sick of this surface level penny pinching shit from National. There's massive savings to be made by making this a blanket thing. Economists keep coming back to this. It's like when you add bureaucracy in, which remember, National are against bureaucracy unless they have an opportunity to punch down on half the population. There's massive savings to be made. Just remove the barrier.
JK says he was so close. If you can't afford another child, then you need contraception.
Yeah, absolutely. Why would you take choice away? Why, I mentioned this earlier, didn't I? That this just seems to be National making unforced error after unforced error. If I was Luxon's bloody PR consultant, I'd be sprinting across and slapping the microphone out of his face.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing.
What the hell are you doing?
We often talk about the political game, and to basically not shut this down without question immediately by saying, yeah, women are covered, it's an essential health need. But to kind of mealy mouth it and stumble around and kind of go, if they need it and if they can't afford it, we don't want to hold up anyone and we'll target. And it's just, it looks like all the things that are the reasons that people don't trust him. That's what it looks like. He's kind of confirming it. It looks like a car salesman going, the tires are a bit thin, but they'll be okay. They'll be all right for there. And, the oil in there is good, but you want to top it up. And, it's good. It's all good now. We're going to work. It's going to work for you. But, you know what I mean? It's just got that. It feels wrong. It feels like.
I bet Simon O'Connor gave him the highest of high fives after he said it.
I think as well, actually, if that was Jenna Lynch as well, I've just come up with an interesting concept, Chewy. That we all know Jenna Lynch is married to one of the ACT Party press secretaries. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
And after talking to Simon Wilson last night about Luxon's dilemma and suggesting that perhaps ACT would be the strongest party on the right in 2026 if this all continues, maybe Jenna Lynch is actually also working against National. Maybe it's like, I'm not like, this is me now telling a fairy tale.
We're through the looking glass here, people.
I just thought about some of those questions are fair and balanced, and you could say good journalism if that was Jenna Lynch. If I think it was, it sounded like her. Or you could say maybe they're actually working on Act 2026. Maybe that's a part of it.
Hey Pat. I don't have to go to Twitter to find some dude completely missing the point.
Good.
One of them's come to us.
Yay!
Welcome, fish fingers. Haha! I love how offended Chewy is about the state not paying for your bedroom habits. Hilarious. And our bingo word, woke.
That's $50 for everyone in the room right now.
Oh, you're so close to bingo, fish fingers. Absolutely missing the point. It's not the bedroom habits, it's health. It's health. Women take contraception for a whole bunch of reasons that just isn't just protecting them from accidentally bearing your child, as an example.
We want to stop
but
that.
The point that I'm making here is that subsidization of that medication and that subsidization of removing the barrier for people to access that medication pays out for this country far more than what we lose paying for it.
I mean, you're talking about what it costs the country, and if a 17-year-old, a 19-year-old, anyone gets pregnant and they don't want to have an abortion, they don't want to get rid of the baby, and they want to carry it to term, but then they don't have the finances for that, then that could be 5, 10, 15 years of payments from Ministry of Welfare, is that what they're called now? WINS, whatever they're called.
And
to that business, there's that as well, where that could have been stopped with $60 a year. Could have been. Not saying would have been, but could have been. So I wonder what those analyses all are.
You see this play out in the States, right? You don't want abortion. Abortion is horrible. Here's a picture of an aborted fetus. Horrible, horrible, cruel, murderous. Okay, so what if we stop it before it gets to that stage? Oh, no, you can't do that either. Women will always find a way to get rid of a pregnancy that they don't want. It's how messy that gets.
Jezza has said the perfect comment, and this is something that I kind of came to the realization of a couple of years ago, especially in America, talking about the pro-life brigade, is that they're not pro-life, and I always say they're pro-live birth, because once the baby's born, they're like, couldn't give a fuck about it. You know, in fact, we're going to tear down the social welfare system. We're going to tear down the food stamp system in America, and we're going to make life for that unplanned pregnancy for that baby as hard as possible. But as long as they get out the vajayjay, then that's all we need. I mean, that's our job done. Then they can get fucked, and that seems to be a similar thing here. So he has no consideration for the life of the child and no policies to support that. Luxon isn't pro-life; he's pro-birth.
Fish finger's still not getting it. It's not sex. You're thinking it from a purely male point of view, that the only reason to take contraception is to have sex. That's not it. There is another comment in the chat that I can't bring across because it hasn't come over into my thing. It's not about preventing pregnancy. Some of us, including yours truly, need a contraception to improve chronic pain.
Yeah,
nice
there are
to know
people
that
who
National
take it
doesn't
because
give
of
a shit. Fish fingers, talk to a woman one day. Maybe they'll take pity on you and explain it.
Hey, incels in the basement of their parents' house don't get to do that. Paul, the other one, says, not sure how many 65-year-old women with gold cards would need contraceptive pills, meaning the gold card people get them for free, but, you know, that's not going to work out.
Yes, yes.
J.N. Powell says he wants to make the system, I guess, as complicated as possible, and VR Rex echoing similar thoughts, what you're saying, better health equals better for the economy. Gareth also says of our favourite image of the week, Luxon, read my lips if you can find them. So, and I haven't been in on the chat because I've been doing those, and you can see why there are a million comments going on. Is there anything else that you've seen that you'd like to highlight in there?
I'm just
going to... Brent, let me do this one, because Brenda's mentioned something. The Nats will want to take the free period products from school next, like free contraception. This has made thousands of lives easier. I have to tell you, Brenda, that's one of the criticisms that Luxon has made. We've talked about it. He went free school luncheons, free sanitary pads, free this and that. So he hasn't actually said we're going to get rid of them. But we did a piece on this show, which was he's coming for your tampons. Like, we did it on the show. So it's not a policy they've actively done, but he has thrown shade at schools for giving out free feminine hygiene products. So yeah, maybe.
And that just comes back to what it always is. It is class war, because in both of those cases, it's not the wealthy people that are going to be put out. It's going to be the poor people.
Yeah, we
look after people in this country. Like good on Luxon for completing to fumble the ball. This fish-faced stupid dickhead. Like, please keep dropping the ball this bad.
If Cam Slater is saying that this is the kind of thing that'll lose him the election, then I would agree with you. Keep on going. Because remember, people, if the left vote, the left wins. Now, let's wrap up with I've got a little surprise for you, Chewy. I think you'll enjoy it. This is from Sean Plunkett's Twitter feed. Don't know if you've seen this today. Sean Plunkett is having conniptions over how freedom of speech is being inhibited, and he's at the centre of it.
Yes.
Because the press gallery has not given the platform accreditation. I emailed Mikey Sherman today, asked her to come on. She politely declined. She literally said, I'll politely decline this offer. So thanks, Mikey. So obviously Sean wants to be a part of the press gallery, as does Ben Espiner, so they can ask really important questions like, what is a woman? Whoa, like really hard-hitting, important questions for the economy. And this is on the platform's Twitter feed. They put it out there themselves. The email or the letter, I guess it's an email that was sent to Sean. Tinakwe, Sean. I've received the application of Ben Espiner, producer of the platform, regarding accreditation with the press gallery. First, could you please clarify the type of accreditation he is requesting, temporary, ancillary, associate, or full? Second, as you will be aware, the press gallery was in the process of updating its rules at the time of your own accreditation request. That process has now come to an end, and all recommended rule changes were adopted at the AGM earlier this month. Criteria for membership now includes the following. So this is what you have to do, right, to be, this is what you have to be a part of. This is the criteria you have to fulfill to be part of the press gallery in the halls of power at government, right? The criteria for membership now includes the following. The outlet the reporter works for must be a member of the New Zealand Media Council or a member of the Broadcasting Standards Authority. A reporter whose outlet is not a member of either the NZMC or BSA can apply for accreditation. The press gallery executive has discretion to consider an exemption in circumstances requests that fall outside of this requirement. This clause only applies to domestic media. Can you please confirm whether the platform is a member of either the NZMC or the Broadcasting Standards Authority or is in the process of becoming a member? You may also be aware that your own temporary accreditation came to an end April 30th, 2023. Can I again reiterate that in the absence of accreditation at this stage, any person can make private arrangements to interview politicians or approach party press secretaries to attend press conferences. So you can still get in there, you just have to go via a party press secretary, which I'm sure the ACT Party will happily help the platform with. Mikey goes on to say, there is also the ability to apply directly to the Speaker for accreditation if for whatever reason you are not satisfied with the process to date. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Now, that's been turned into, government, freedom of speech, yada, 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 and that's going to be breaking tomorrow. Now, I think about that. I think that's perfectly reasonable. That means we couldn't be accredited because we're not part of the NZMC or the BSA. But it also means that the most lunatic, fringe, loony, alt-right conspiracy theories, reality type places also can't get into the halls of power. And I am being a little bit dramatic here. Putting unhinged people in front of the people who make the laws of this land, I think is a concern. So actually, I think straight up being a member of the New Zealand Media Council or a BSA, member of the BSA, or going through a press secretary or applying directly to the Speaker for accreditation is fairly reasonable. But to the platform, apparently we'll hear tomorrow morning. Well, I won't hear. Maybe there'll be a highlight package for us to play tomorrow night. This is the biggest attack on free speech New Zealand government has ever done. Chewy.
I'm not stupid here. I'm just going to draw a straight line, right? This is Sean Plunkett, who loves having a podcast that doesn't come under broadcast standards or the Media Council. So he can say whatever the fuck he likes. People can make complaints and it goes nowhere because there's no one that's going to call him to account. We're talking about the same dude, right?
That's the dude.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And so because he is free of those regulatory groups, he can't get into the press gallery. Is that also correct?
Yeah. Yeah. So much like you decide not to be a part of a group, and the group has privileges, so you don't get those privileges.
Oh, curious. And he's surprised by this.
Yeah. No, he's not just surprised. I'll put up the platform tweet right now for you. He's not surprised. The government's new plan to impose draconian restrictions on free speech.
Wow.
Yeah. Draconian.
Wow, that's definitely a measured and reasonable response to that.
I guess I should say one thing in the defense of accuracy. I'm assuming that's what they're talking about because it came quite quickly after the other press release. Unless there's a different
context. So.
Unless there's a different story and if it is, I'll retract and apologize tomorrow and say what it was about if I see it. But I'm assuming that's what it's about, the draconian restrictions on free speech. And like all of the people you'd expect to put this around the internet today, put this around the internet today. And I don't know, it sometimes feels a little bit like, if you want to play in the under 15 soccer team and you're 18, well, you can't.
Okay. Let's take this out to its obviously, and you'll see how logical this is, the logical conclusion. Sean Plunkett gets access to the press gallery because he's got a podcast.
Yep.
I get access to the press gallery because I'm on a podcast.
Yeah.
Voices for Freedom FM gets access to the press gallery because it's got a podcast.
Yeah.
And then every press conference becomes a fist fight.
Yep.
Because I'll start one every time. Is that the New Zealand we want to live in, people?
Yep. And Vicky's saying Vicky's saying exactly what you said.
Subscribe and share.
Because Chantal Baker can't get in either. They're trying to get in themselves. So, and I think that's probably, and you'll notice that the letter from Mikey said to the flat platform that we were, addressing criteria around this before Plunkett applied. And so obviously that was in process. So you can't say it's about his application because it was already in process. But yeah, it's now that there's new media. Well, I actually think this is more new media. Like we talked about new media for 20 years now. So this is sort of new media, new media perhaps, that they have to figure out who's getting in and who's getting out. I don't know. We will see. We will see. Let's also say this, and a huge thanks to Rex. I can't bring that up, Rex. Hang on, I'll go back. Oh, there we go. There it is there. For the super chat. Genuinely appreciate that. Have a drink on me, guys, from Rex. $22. That makes him, if when you do a super chat, it makes you 22% happier. If you donate $22, that must be what, 222% happier? Is that what it does?
I'll run those maths after the show, but I'm pretty sure. I'll have to take my shoes off, but I reckon I can get that done.
So thank you very much, Rex. Genuinely appreciate that. Every little bit helps as we're doing this thing. And also, speaking of, just scrolling back to the top of this chat, it seems that people are kind of suggesting for t-shirts maybe between $40 and $60 seems to be a fair sort of an amount. That I know there's people who are saying less than that, which is all good. I'm not saying that's going to be the final amount. Someone says 25, so that's all good. But 40 to 50, 60, 40 to 60 all seems pretty accurate. 60 there as well. Here's another question for you in the last 60 seconds as we wrap up. What if it was a hoodie? Right? What if it was a hoodie? What would be a fair price for a hoodie? If a t-shirt, let's just use the middle figure of $50 for a t-shirt, right? Let's just say that. What if it was a hoodie that had BHN on the back and had a slogan on the front, like, for example, if the left votes, the left wins, or Christopher Luxon, he's not a businessman, he is a board member. Something like that you could wear around proudly to show your ideology.
A really niche comment like, we like Christopher Luxon's tongue.
Or something like...
Is it too far? I can never tell.
Something like, where are your lips? I Love My Lips. Have you ever seen that song? There's a song from a group called Veggie Boys called I Love My Lips. You should look it up. Everyone should look that up. I Love My Lips before we go. And maybe we should play that for Christopher Luxon. I am going to do some editing tomorrow. I am going to do some editing tomorrow. So
I'm going to leave with a couple of things. We've referenced this guy's cartoons a couple of times. I've had some people asking at the top of the show who he is. For those of you on Twitter, you can go and give the artist a follow. It's at Yeehaw the Boys. I've just put that in the chat.
Okay. Do you want me to bring it up?
Yeah, go on.
Where is it in the chat? I see nothing in the chat.
Okay.
Right.
Put it in the wrong chat.
Oh no, sorry. I see there.
That's why.
So is this Instagram Yeehaw the Boys?
No, that's on the Twitters.
Yeehaw the Boys. There's an
well
Instagram.
Worth a follow. Very, very funny guy.
You can just pad while I'm doing this.
Okay. And the other thing
this is the guys that we put up the other day.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Very good.
Dan,
He's just done a Simon O'Connor one that made me giggle.
Right.
And the other thing I'd say for those of you that are following what's going on in Ukraine and that sort of stuff, I stumbled across probably one of the most amazing bits of footage. If you've got the stomach for a bit of combat footage with most of the nasties blurred out, but just really showing what it's like over there at the moment. I'm going to put that in the chat as well. It is some of the most jaw-dropping footage I have seen from Ukraine so far.
But there's trigger warnings, you're saying, as well. I hear you saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, if you don't want to see stuff, don't click on the link. But if you do, it's there.
Looks like people are saying for hoodies, sort of low price 60, high price 110. So somewhere
I generally go up to about 80 for a good hoodie.
Yeah, and look, there's Miko. That's the number. All right, team. Hey, it's been a lot of fun tonight, actually. I'm sorry that I was very unprofessional. I know we're normally so professional here. And I want to firstly and proudly apologise to all our patrons. I've let you all down tonight with my ridiculous giggle fit, which I'm sure will become a clip. But thank you for being on board. Thank you for being involved. And thank you very much again to Rex for the super chat. We will have a drink on you.
Absolute champion, mate.
We'll have a drink on you on my birthday, maybe. Maybe we'll do that, Chewy. I've got a big one coming up. Have I told people what my big one is coming up? It ends in a 0.
You told me. I'm invited.
It's not 30 or 40.
Unless you've told me the wrong place.
Yeah.
It's a joke.
So my 50th is in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today, in fact, I think it was what it is. So there's a heads up for you. I know that you're all addicted to us and you can't be without us. On the night of the 14th of June, I don't think there's going to be a program. Although there's a part of me, Chewy, I'd quite like to be here on my birthday.
I'm going to strap a GoPro to your face and see how we go.
I'll be taking the
like that young fellow over in the UK that watches the trains and he's got the GoPro pointing down. I'm going to do that.
I'm taking the kids out for dinner on the Wednesday night, and then on the Friday night it's party time. Small party on Friday night for it. So there you go. A soiree. Okay, team. Hey, thanks for being involved tonight. Thanks for being with us. It's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it. Thanks to Dave for coming in, actually having a chat with us. There's another good. It's lovely when you find resources around the place. Dave Armstrong, and remember, if you want to see more of his work, he's on The Post, which is what they call it now. He says he writes a lot about Wellington issues. So if you are in Wellington, you probably know of him. If you want to pick up more about him, Dave Armstrong on The Post. And as I said, I put the link in the live chat, or just look up Dave Armstrong and look up the word kibosh, Kibosh, and I'm sure you'll find this. You'll find this article. All right, lovelies, it's been lovely, and we will catch you. What day is it today? Wednesday? Is it Wednesday today?
Today is Wednesday, my dudes.
Right. We will catch you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. I'm trying to get an interview with a political figure for this week. I won't tell you who it is, lovely people watching, but Chewy, I'll tell you once we're finished, because I want to say who it is in case it doesn't happen. But you'll probably want to be involved, I would think, if you can. Nice. If you can be, we'll see what happens. All right, team, love you to bits. We will see you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for another edition of Big Hairy News. Stay safe. Want to see you all back here tomorrow night. We'll catch you then. Hooroo.
See ya.